Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to another third channel video. Right now I'm in the United States of America, legally speaking and by any real definition, but that's not being very specific. I mean, sure, when you look around you see American signs everywhere, crosswalks I believe they're called, and sure there's a Denny's, which assures me it is America's diner. You know, you see everything here that, you know, is recognizably American, from dollar signs everywhere, people drive on the right side of the road. Everything here is American, and therefore we are in America, right? That's what Hawaii is, but also kind of not. I mean, if we cross the road here, we shouldn't, but we will. If we cross the road right here, you can see how, first of all, this school distinctly doesn't feel so American, right? This building, this fascinates me. This is the most Japanese looking building I've ever seen. Look how thin and square and boxy this thing is, right? It is, by all accounts, a Japanese building, but we're here in the United States of America, as you can see, despite all the foliage and stuff. And basically what I'm trying to say with this video is there's a very interesting game you have to play when you're going into Hawaii, and that is, what box do you put Hawaii in? Hawaii is one of the 50 states that makes up the United States of America, but it is one of the most recent of those 50 states, only being added in the last 60 years. And as a result, you can tell that this place is distinctly part of America. The Customs and Border Patrol will stop you here, but it's distinctly not as American as the lower 48. One of the things that America does better than any other country, I would argue, is the homogeneity, the conformity you'll find from coast to coast. Even though Seattle, Washington is vastly different to Miami, Florida, the amount of similarities you'll see between those two places, the fact that they speak the same language or the same currency and will see themselves as Americans, is a amazing, you know, like the statehood, you know, the crafting that managed to happen there, despite the fact that the country is meant to be based on the idea of individual states. It's amazing, it's impressive. The fact that this Hawaii is considered one of the 50 states, and I was like, yeah, it's just Hawaii, is pretty shocking. I mean, like, do you need a passport to get here? No. Will you go for a lot of security right now because of COVID, but in general because of your biosecurity? Yeah. I mean, everything about this place is super interesting, and just trying to work out how to categorize it is something my brain immediately has problems with, because calling it America is correct on the legal sense, calling it Japan is incorrect on a legal sense. What is that bird? But you know, like, this place is the closest I have been to Japan since obviously the last time I was there. In fact, I actually went to some islands off the coast of Japan. They're called, the capital is Oahu. I forget the name of the, Okinawa is the name of the islands. There are some Japanese islands that have a very American presence, and they use the yen there, and everything's Japanese and all built that way, but it feels pretty much the same thing. When you fuse those two cultures in a ratio of like 60% you know, Asia to 40% America, maybe even more on the Japanese side, you get something that feels like this. And the only difference between the places, besides the geography and the fact that, you know, there's 2,500 miles in between, is the, you know, like the fact that they're legally very distinct entities. Well, they don't feel like it. They both feel like tropical islands with this weird American-Japanese fusion, kind of getting the best of both worlds in a few ways. Probably getting the worst of both in some others, but, you know, if we focus on the good here, we can say that this is one of the most stunning places that I've been. And what I'm trying to say with the other boxes is, whenever people try to explain something and be like, wow, it's so different than you expect, it's really X, everyone thinks it's Y, or, like, you know, like, people try to categorize, oh man, see, even the birds, what are any of these birds? Why are the pigeons white? You know, anyway, people try to categorize places. They try to throw them into boxes to be like, oh yeah, this place is America. Oh yeah, this place, you know, you gotta get out of the road, birds. There's some cars coming. You know, I'm always shocked by birds' inability to fly, even though that's their, like, big ability. They're just like, you know, we'll just walk out of the way of cars. But anyway, this video is gonna be rambling off topic. It's a third channel walking video, which is now a category. I like that it's a category. You know, it's a box that you could put my stuff in. Basically, we as humans, we like making comparisons. See, and now they fly away because of me running. There were cars. There were 1,000-ton things. Anyway, I think categorization is something we do as humans, and it's really useful. Being able to understand somewhere that you've never been is hard. Being able to understand someone you haven't met is hard. Being able to understand a food you haven't tried, etc., 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 is very hard. So what we do naturally is we make comparisons. Oh yeah, you know, if you really liked Fight Club and the you know, wink wink nudge nudge part of that, maybe you'd like another movie that has a twist. If you really liked Star Wars, then something's, you know, biologically wrong with you and you gotta go to the doctor. But also you might like Star Trek. I don't think that's true. I think people get offended if I say that. But yeah, the idea of making comparisons between if you know, X, you know, if this thing is similar to X in this way, this thing is similar to Y in this way, is what we do as humans, and it allows us to store so much more information. If we had to categorize every individual thing, like you know, if I looked at every one of these buildings and had to individually work out what I was looking at, I'd be like, okay, you know, it takes a lot more effort than to be like, oh, so the skyscrapers here are boxy and kind of Japanese, and oh, there's a lot of them all around me on all sides. It's very useful to just be like skyscraper, and then my brain looks at it and sees the same skyscraper. I'm not even individually looking at any of these details because it's too much. Same with the foliage, same with the birds, same with crossing the road. Making rules and following them, making comparisons, making points of reference is something we do, and it's something we do very well as humans. But the reason I bring it up is because Hawaii doesn't fit neatly into any one box. If you put Hawaii into just a single box, even if you try to put it into a few boxes, it's not going to work. Is this, you know, America but with better weather? I mean, maybe. I mean, I hate the weather. It's very humid. It feels exactly like all of Southeast Asia or East Asia, you know, Japan. I'm flooding in my own sweat right now, but I digress. Is it that? I mean, sort of. Is it, you know, like the easiest way if you don't have an American, if you just have an American, if you don't have a passport and you're American, is it the easiest way to experience, you know, like an Asian kind of feel? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, but you're not really going to Asia. This is Polynesia. You know, this is, I think it's continentally part of the same continent as Australia. So, you know, like you have to put it in that box, like, oh, it's kind of like Oceanic is the name of the continent that people would actually use, but Americans call it Australia. I'm just trying to cater to your boxes, okay? Because different places around the world use different boxes to define the same thing. But what I'm just trying to say with this video is we spend a lot of time trying to define things into easy boxes to work for people. And Hawaii is one of these places that I don't think works so well for trying to, you know, like trying to throw Hawaii in any box isn't going to work. Trying to throw Hawaii into a series of boxes isn't going to work. And I think it kind of, you know, it's something that probably could be said for anywhere around the world, that like, yeah, if you categorize it, you're going to go slightly wrong. Would you like to get some one bed, one bath studios? No studios, actually, just one bed, one baths. Email these people. But, man, I'm in Waikiki. It's like a very touristy district of Hawaii. Because I've only got a couple of days here, but, I digress. More birds. Do I really digress? So yeah, pigeons are just white here. Or that maybe they're doves. I've heard that doves are just white pigeons. But like, what's happening here, you know? What is this? Look at this one. Oh, I feel bad for beating up pigeons. Is that even actually a pigeon? I don't know anymore. Life is confusing. But you know what I do know? I know that this place makes me think about how we kind of try to label things. Because something we erroneously do all the time as humans is we apply these labels, which are great for sharing information, but we kind of get stuck into thinking that, you know, X label applies to Y thing, and therefore Y shares everything with X. Oh yeah, this place is America, and therefore all the laws are the same. I mean, not really. To name a few bizarre examples I picked up, I think bike laws are much stricter here. Oh look, there's a little street food opening out of a van there. But for another example, cannabis is legal here. They, like, at the cash register, it's like, do you want some mints? Do you want some CBD gummies? Do you want some? And it's like, wait, what's that second one? So, you know, like, you know, that's an interesting little asterisk on it. For another one, this is one of the few parts of America where, you know, there are biosecurity laws. You can't take a banana. You can take a banana from any one of the other 49 states to one of the other 49 states. It's not true here. You get a $25,000 fine. I mean, it's probably a lot less, but you get a big fine if they catch you. You know, a maximum fine of 25,000 if you bring in 25,000 bananas or something. The rules we kind of use to group things together fall apart in a place like this, and you sometimes find people that are like that are hard to define. You sometimes find movies that are like that, where it doesn't compare to anything else. I found games, you know, like Undertale, you know, Minecraft and Undertale, two games I like a lot, I'd say, are both very tricky to put out there. I like Portal a lot, and Portal I have to describe as like a comedy game, but it is a puzzle game. It's just if you go into it expecting a puzzle game, I guess you'd be pleasantly surprised. But it wouldn't fully fit the category, right? We find a lot of things in life because they're based on other things, because, you know, we try to build homogeneity in some form as humans. A lot of things work that way, but a lot of things don't. When you think about how we categorize humans, like, oh yeah, when you're in school, at least in American school, there's no such thing as a jock in Europe, as best I can tell. Maybe we have chavs, which is similar, but like, oh yeah, if you think about a jock, you know, like I met a friend from the south, and she's like, oh yeah, I thought he was a real jock type, and then I realized he wasn't. And it's like, oh yeah, even way after school, you can assume these stereotypes stick with you. Like, oh yeah, if someone, you know, wears black makeup, that implies to you that they like, you know, some heavy music, right? They might like classical music, but that's not what you assume, and it's statistically not true, because we kind of group ourselves in certain ways. But those groupings fall apart real fast, especially when it comes to the realm of like mental health. I think physical health too, but like, and arguably like your, you know, this is why we have problems, or had problems. I'd say we're doing well as a species about like, oh yeah, LGBT stuff, right? Like, how many people are gay? It's a very low percentage. The odds of knowing someone gay are actually pretty low. I had a gay friend in school, or like a gay like extended member of my group. There was a guy called Jonathan. He was very large, and he made a lot of jokes about being gay, so I'm pretty sure he's gay. And he said something about it, but then, you know, I'm not too sure. You know, how many transgender friends do you have? It's a tiny percentage of the population. How are you going to understand what's going on with that? You know, you're not going to. The same with like super minority races. Like, when you live in America, and every 8th person, I think it is black, and every 3rd person is Hispanic. Yeah, you're gonna have a pretty good understanding of their issues. But what about someone who has like a serious form of anxiety? Except, you know, we use anxiety not just as a, you know, a medical term to define things, but also as like a human categorization. Like, oh, that's a real, you know, anxious person. Like, oh, I have real bad social anxiety. You know, like we take these labels and then we apply them to ourselves, kind of muddying the label in some ways. To call us America, you know, like, it's easy enough to understand, like, oh, it's America, but like, it's the wacky bit of America. What if you don't say that? You're just like, oh yeah, this is one of the things you expect in America. That's true, but then it muddies your label of what America is. And I guess I could talk about labels and categorizations and things all day, and you know what, we're gonna. That's what the third channel's here for. But the point is, we do this all the time, and it's kind of a worry, because sometimes those boxes that people put us in keep us trapped in there. When someone expects you as I don't know why I'm going with the goth girl example, when someone expects you as someone who wears, you know, like black lipstick, to be like, oh, so you're into some heavy music, those expectations in part are gonna shape you. Like, you know, like the sorts of people who want to become friends with you based on those things. What those people around you assume about you, to some extent, helps to define you. That's why, have you ever met like really intelligent women? I guess really intelligent people, not even so intelligent, but like kind of smart people, but like you make a joke that they're dumb, and then they start playing up how dumb they are. They're like, oh, I just didn't know what chicken was. I told the story of the girl in my class who was like, I tried to use Yahoo once, but it was hard and I couldn't. And I was like, huh. Like, you know, that like lack of intelligence was the, like, lack of, I don't even know what to call that. It was like the moment I was like, oh, she's not attractive to me anymore. But the thing is we make all of these groupings, and then these groupings, you know, it's great that they can kind of, to some extent, you know, like when it comes to places, when it comes to, you know, movies, you have media that is made, and then it is made, you know, it's made, and then it's done. Sure, you know, like you can't actually you can't change Harry Potter by thinking of it as a, you know, post-apocalyptic movie in a time, you know, where all the humans are dead or something. I guess they show muggles, don't they? This is a time in the far, far future, like the Star Wars, like we don't know if it's the future or the past thing, but like you can kind of change the entire feel of a movie by going into it with a different vibe, right? If you go into Fight Club knowing the twist, I'm sorry I ruined that movie for you, you know, it's going to be very different. Is this a dead end? Oh, no, it's not. You can go through there. Should we? I guess we should. But if you, I'll see, by the way, like, look at the food. Even the food is, oh wait, Hungarian beef stew. I'm so confused. I was gonna say, also, I was gonna say that's like Japanese feeling food, but it's very much not. But yeah, the very categories we use to look at things, and that's like a fixed piece of media, right? Now think about the fact that it can apply to a person. Now think about the fact that it can apply to a whole country. It can apply to a whole state. I mean, I like to think of Hawaii as its own country to keep things simple, but you know, it's a state. It's a subdivision of America, and as a part of that, yeah, think about how it's going to be changed by your perception of it. And this is why I put a lot of effort. Actually, I don't put a lot of effort. My brain does it by default. Like I'm a contrarian. My brain, if you tell me something, I'm jumping to why that's probably fake rather than why that's probably true. That is a huge store over there. Do you want to go in? I think we shouldn't go in, but we might anyway. You know what? Nah, it's probably just a grocery store that sells like fresh food. Actually, I think that is just it's a grocery store, but also you can buy. That's a cool concept. I love that. I love that big cities around the world do that. See, one of the things I've noticed, I first noticed it in Dublin in like 2015, but like big cities around the world, convenience stores are so much cooler because they sell fresh food to you. Because you know, why'd you go into a convenience store? For things that are convenient, and sometimes you just want food, man. You don't care if it's great food, you just want okay to good food. And convenience stores will provide that to you for a lower price than you otherwise get. Anyway, that's the thing I've noticed in every big city I've been to since Dublin all those years ago, and now my brain has categorized that away. The reason I'm so good at navigating cities, I guess this is something you might not know about me, but man, is my camera blurry or something? I feel like it might be. Have I fixed it? Oh, now it's the opposite blurry. You know, we're just gonna keep on going. I'm gonna wipe it on my shirt. I doesn't mean blurry. Oh, okay, so it's still blurry. This is what my eyes look like naturally, by the way, but I know that they're not meant to look this way. I think it's called astigmatism, but I won't dive too far into what that is or why that is today. But yeah, there's a very bizarre tendency to categorize things, and then those categories that we use tend to start to define the thing itself. You know, the stereotype of aloha and getting beads at the airport is such a stereotype that if you want, now Hawaiian has a package where you can pay them, I think it's $30. It's probably going to be more during COVID times, but you can pay them money by someone at the airport, you know, wearing some leis will throw one at you and say aloha, because people picture that from the movies. Like things that people picture as being real and kind of want to get, you know, people make happen. There's a trillion examples of this stereotype where something is pictured as being real even though it's not, and then to fulfill people's fantasies. Because when you go to Las Vegas, where I'm currently living when I'm not in Hawaii, you know, you have a certain picture. When you go to Hawaii, there's a certain picture, so that, you know, they feel like, you know, let's fulfill it. What's the downside? A great example of this is that the Netherlands, often called Holland overseas, even though Holland is just 2 of the 13 provinces of the Netherlands. Now they're just like, oh yeah, Visit Holland is their official tourism website, and they don't mind using the name because you're not, if that's what you know us by, sure, we'll accept your box. Because if we play into, you know, like if trying to redefine a place is hard, even if a place is wrongly defined, sometimes you better just lean into it. That's why people might just act dumb when their friends make a joke about them being stupid. That's why, you know, I'm gonna go back to the black lipstick girl for no real reason. You know, that's why you might be like, you know, I'm just so depressed. Even if you're happy on the inside, you might have that like outwardly hostile thing, because that's what people expect from you. Whenever I meet a lot of when Americans, a certain subsect Americans, I'd say, because I live in Vegas, where it's a very foreigner-heavy city, it doesn't happen too much. But a lot of people, Americans, when they're like, "Oh, you're British. What's it like over the pond?" Anyway, when they cross the pond, you know, they'll ask about like, "Oh yeah, so you know, what pub should I go to in London, mate?" And I used to be like, "Oh yeah, I can't really. I just go to like a local chain pub. I don't care." You know, I used to give actual advice, and then you realize, like, actually, it's not what people want from you. You know, that the reason people don't want the truth from you is because the truth is not what they expect. What they expect is some variant of the thing. I used to tell, this is going to sound like I'm lying to border officials, I tell border officials the truth, but I tell it in a way that they expect. If you just say like, "Oh, I'm just going to Atlanta for 24 hours, or like I'm going to insert city here, I'm in Hawaii for 36 hours. If you just say that, "Oh, there's icy machines in there, I'm so jealous." maybe just there's certain things you can say that make you incredibly suspicious. So instead, you just be, you know, I once I was in Boston. The first time I came to America, they asked, hey, so you know, like, what are you here for? And I was like, I'm just in America for 3 days. I figured I'd just like check it out. And then she's like, so you're here for the marathon? I was like, I didn't know there was a marathon. And she gave me like big dead eyes. This was the year after the Boston Marathon bombing or whatever. She gave me like big dead eyes of like, you didn't know about the marathon, the big event. And I was like, oh God, I'm sorry. I knew about the marathon. But you know, like, you have to, I started to realize that like, you can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm just kind of winging it, because pretending you know nothing is what people who do know things and are trying to hide it do. So instead you have to just make elaborate, true-ish stories, because a true-ish story that's elaborate is better than a real story that sounds fake. People like stories. People have an expectation from you, and you have to meet that. It's it's weird, but it's a thing. And speaking of weird expectations that you might feel you have to meet, Hawaii meets some of my expectations, but also, oh, I've been here before. I think I was at the supermarket earlier. I know where I am all of a sudden. I was a little lost, if I'm being honest. I know I'm near the beach, but it's getting dark, and I was getting a little lost. But it's all good now. But I think the thing about Hawaii is it proves the point that even though you can stick most of the American cities and states in a box of like broadly America, Atlanta is so different to LA, which is so different to Vegas in terms of climate and in terms of a lot of things. New York is different to Boston, even though they're pretty similar when you compare them to you know, Las Vegas. LA, you know, San Francisco is really different to LA, except they're both California, so when you compare it to Minnesota, these are all places I've been, by the way, flexing on you all with my knife. But yeah, when you compare these places, they're similar until they're not, but they all fit in the big box of America. But the more things you put in that box, Jesus Christ. I know what I just saw. Holy Christ. I've never been so terrified. I'm just teased. See, I love that every time I do these, something weird happens, right? Something weird happens. I've never been, like, I don't know why, like, being tasered shouldn't be the most scary thing, but like, something interesting, just to, so that these thoughts are gonna be worthless, because it takes a while to process, and like, in reality, I'll be like, oh, there's a man with a taser. But like, in the moment there, I was terrified. You can probably tell I stopped talking, don't know what I was talking about. Because the thing about a taser is, it should be way less terrifying than a gun, which is common enough in the rest of America, or even a car. You know, these guys could hit me at any moment and I'm just dead. But like, you get the impression that people don't want to shoot you because it's like a big deal. I feel like if I got tased, like, yeah, there's no like recollection of that. If there's a crazy man who's just like, hey, you have a camera, I'm upset with your camera, I'm gonna tase you for it. You know, if you're a robber, if you're a mugger watching this video, first of all, I'm sorry. I know because of COVID, it's a lot harder to mug people, social distancing and all that. You know, like, you're risking your life every day, and I want to salute you. But second of all, I think tasing people, then while they're on the ground, stealing their stuff, I think that's the way you gotta do it. So, pro tips for mugging with Toy Cat right there. But yeah, that was a thing. It didn't seem like it got resolved. I'm gonna look back at this footage later, and I'm gonna see like what happened there. Because what's so, like, even though he sounded like he was in the right, like, maybe she did drop something. The moment you pull out a weapon, I feel like you lose your moral high ground, you know? I feel like you lose any right to be like, oh, I'm kind of the guy on the right here, because, you know, you dropped some trash on the ground. But, you know, you're threatening someone with a taser, so how about that? Anyway, my video is running out right here. My battery is on low percent again. I like these walks and talks. I like seeing interesting places and just kind of diving into it with you. And maybe we should go to the general store. Fresh bento and sushi. Could try some spam wasabi. Okay, I can't try spam wasabi live because they're closed till further notice. But yeah, things are... We like to categorize things. We like to put things in boxes, and that's fine and great. But I feel like certain things suffer from that a lot. I think certain things we just have to admit, like, it is hard to categorize. Yeah, Hawaii is kind of American. It's kind of Japanese. Again, 1 in 6 people is Japanese, excluding the mixed heritage factor. But also because they're living in Hawaii, they're American citizens. But I think the reality is like, I don't know, there's a lot of there's a lot of niche weird facts about this place I want to just like roll off before we end here. So first of all, Hawaii, Pearl Harbor is here in Hawaii. So when people, you know, like when the Japanese invaded America or whatever, they didn't really invade America. I mean, they invaded something that was part of the United States in a territory form, but it wasn't even a state at the time. And also America was very suspicious of Hawaii, probably because of its large Japanese population. It was like 40% at the time, somewhere in that ballpark. And so they actually didn't, they took away the normal money, the dollars, and they gave out like military money, so that way if the Japanese captured it, they could just make it worthless. Interesting little weird stories about this place perhaps you're interested in. But so yeah, it's a very interesting place. It's an island that no doubt has had its history hugely altered by its weird kind of American, kind of Japanese status. But the reality is this place has its whole own culture, its whole own story, its whole own history. And I think even though we can categorize it briefly, we can, it's one of those places that's so hard to just show and tell about. Oh, I'm really running low, my camera is really yelling at me now. So it's one of those places that's hard to talk about, one of those places that's hard to really fully sum up. And I think we have stuff like that all the time. I think in reality, you know, like people in your life are more complex than you probably think they are. You assign yourself a high degree of complexity. You know everything about your life. You know the reason that you do terrible things sometimes is it's okay because you have a reason, you know, because this terrible thing happened to you. But other people just see that terrible thing and think, oh yeah, Jeanette does terrible things. You know, like you can trust her with everything, but you can't trust her with money, when in reality, something she grew up for, and that's the reason why. Tony Roma's. I thought that was just a Vegas thing, but you know, apparently not. But the interesting thing is like people are wildly complex, and if you're gonna put people in boxes, if we're gonna make comparisons and we're gonna do things like that, the very least you owe it to yourself is to try and always work out new angles, new categorizations, and maybe working out why your existing preconceptions are false. If you think about it a lot, if you think about it all the time, maybe you'll make the world, maybe you'll understand the world a bit better. And maybe if you understand the world a bit better, maybe it can be a better place. Because so many of the problems in our world come from lack of understanding. And I mean that like, a lot of people are like, yeah, it's like, you get me. Like, I understand so hard, and I listen to my one friend who is of weird minority group. I'm saying as in weird, small subsect of minority group, not I'm saying that the minority group is weird. There are some minority groups that probably are weird, but what I'm trying to say here is I know one person and they said this, and then I met another person and they didn't say that, but I knew their opinion was wrong and that they were just brainwashed. And it's like, no, if you want to listen to people, listen to the people who disagree with the group thought too. There are, you know, pick a group that is in the minority in America, in the world, and you're assuming things that they have positions on. Like I saw someone on you know, like on Twitter being like, wow, can't believe I bumped into some self-hating gay on Grindr, or you know, whatever else. Like, you know, he's the worst type, he's bad for this community. And it's like, he's what community, why are you gatekeeping your own thing? And yeah, people do gatekeep sexuality, people do gatekeep gender identity, people will gatekeep racial identity, people will gatekeep pretty much anything in the world. And I think that's one of the few things we need to work through, is like, you know what, let's not have specific categories you gotta go through. Yeah, just for fun. I think I used to do 7-Eleven videos on this channel. Let's do one right now. Let's roll with it. So nice. So I don't know how much of my 7-Eleven adventure you actually saw. I just know you didn't get to see my chocolate and banana drink, and I didn't get to end the video. And both those things are sad. Anyway, I just wanted to point out, as I climb a big old mountain railway head here, that Hawaii is such a humid place. It's such an interesting place to be, because it's the one place in the world where when it starts raining, I feel like there's genuinely not much difference. I can see my stuff getting wet. My camera's so wet right now. Better hope that it's waterproof, huh? But it's so wet, but it's actually like, oh no, am I gonna get wet? It's not like I was sweaty before, or feeling like I was swimming before. Oh, you can see a rainbow. It's beautiful. But yeah, I just want to kind of end, because you know, the fact that I can't even explain rain here, and I'm a British person, you know, I feel like that proves how hard to categorize Hawaii is. And that's what I was trying to say here. Try to understand people better. Try to understand that categories can go very many layers deep, and people can be lots of those categories at the same time. And with that said, hope you'll enjoy this video that I don't think we can categorize too easily. I hope my 7-Eleven snacks made it in there though. But you know what else I hope? That you have a bad day. Get out of my face. Goodbye.